On July 7, 2019, surveillance cameras inside a San Antonio home captured 30-year-old Cecilia Huerta Gallegos walking into her master bedroom at 7:53 p.m. She would never be seen again. What followed was a disturbing sequence of events that would expose a web of deception and ultimately lead to murder charges against her husband, Reyes Huerta Gallegos. Cecilia was the fifth of 7 children, born to Dominican Republic immigrants who had settled in Houston, Texas. Known for her compassionate nature since childhood, she had found her calling as a certified nursing assistant at St. Francis Nursing Home, where colleagues described her as exemplary and reliable. But beneath the surface of her seemingly stable life, there were growing tensions in her marriage that would prove fatal. The events leading to Cecilia's disappearance began earlier that day, during her nursing shift. At 6:40 p.m., security cameras captured an unexpected and unsettling visit from her husband, Reyes. The footage showed Cecilia backing away as he approached, clearly uncomfortable with his presence. Shortly after, she requested to leave her shift early, expressing concerns about her children's safety to both her supervisor and her brother, Justin Disler. By 7:39 p.m., Cecilia had arrived home. 14 minutes later, she entered the master bedroom. What happened next would only be partially revealed through the home's extensive surveillance system. The cameras showed Reyes forcing the couple's 4 children, ages 6, 7, 12, and 14, into their bedrooms. The children would later report hearing screaming, with one child saying she covered her ears to block out the sounds. At 2:08 a.m., the surveillance system went dark. When the cameras resumed recording at 3:44 a.m., they captured Reyes making multiple trips between the master bedroom and the family's white Chevy Tahoe. 3 short trips were followed by a 4th, lasting over 2 hours. At 6:27 a.m., Reyes left the property. When he returned at 8:48 a.m., cameras recorded him unloading items that would later raise serious suspicion: a chainsaw, 2 shovels, contractor-grade trash bags, and cleaning supplies. His shirt was visibly soaked with sweat. Shortly after showering, Reyes made a 911 call reporting a cutting in progress. When San Antonio police officers arrived, they found him with facial injuries, scratch marks on his chest, and a superficial cut on his finger. His account to police was specific. He claimed Cecilia had cut him with a knife during an argument about infidelity just 30 minutes earlier, then dropped the weapon and fled with an unnamed man waiting in a car outside. But the surveillance footage told a different story. Detective Alicia O'Brien would later write in her affidavit, "The suspect's formal statement contradicts what is seen on the surveillance footage. Most crucially, there was no evidence of Cecilia ever leaving the master bedroom, let alone the house. The cameras that had methodically recorded Reyes's nighttime activities had captured no sign of the dramatic escape he described. For 3 days, Cecilia's family grew increasingly concerned by her silence. It was completely out of character for the dedicated mother to cease communication with her children or siblings. Her brother Justin Disler, remembering their ominous final conversation, contacted San Antonio police to request a welfare check. When officers couldn't locate Cecilia, he filed a missing persons report. The investigation took on new urgency when St. Francis Nursing Home reported that Cecilia failed to appear for her July 14th shift, an unprecedented occurrence for the reliable employee. That same evening, her siblings reached out to search and support San Antonio, a volunteer organization that had recently aided in the search for another missing local mother, Andreen McDonald. The parallels between the 2 cases were striking. Both women had disappeared under suspicious circumstances, leaving behind children and evidence that pointed to domestic violence. But unlike MacDonald's case, which ended with the discovery of remains, Cecilia's body has never been found. Child Protective Services took swift action, removing all 4 children from Reyes's custody and placing them with Cecilia's sister, Margie Lopez. This decision was influenced by what investigators called suspicious circumstances surrounding the case. The investigation would lead to multiple arrests of Reyes Gallegos. On August 13, 2019, he was initially arrested for assaulting Cecilia's male co-worker during that June 22 incident at the nursing home, though this charge was later dismissed when witnesses failed to appear in court. That same day, he was also charged with making a false report to police regarding Cecilia's disappearance. Initially released on a $3,500 bond, a judge later increased it to $75,000, sending him back to custody. But the most significant development came 2 years later. On August 24, 2021, during a routine traffic stop on San Antonio's west side, police arrested Reyes Gallegos for murder. As officers led him to the magistrate's office, he repeatedly proclaimed his innocence to reporters. 3 months later, a Bexar County grand jury formally indicted him for intentionally and knowingly causing Cecilia's death, though the exact manner remained unknown. 2 weeks later, he was released on house arrest with GPS monitoring. The trial, originally scheduled for March 2023, was moved to July 2023. Throughout these legal proceedings, Search and Support San Antonio has conducted 19 organized searches for Cecilia's remains. They've combed through overgrown culverts, ditches, fields, and parks near her home. The organization continues to plan searches, particularly focusing on a dump site near the Gallegos residence, though they require additional resources and heavy equipment to properly execute their plans. Before her disappearance, Cecilia had shared haunting premonitions with those closest to her. To her friend Monique Medina, she had said, "If I ever go missing, make sure you look for me." To her sister Margie, she warned, "If anything goes down, call the police." These words now echo through the halls of justice as her family continues their quest for answers. Today, more than 4 years after Cecilia Huerta Gallegos walked into her bedroom and vanished, her case remains technically unsolved. While her husband awaits trial for her murder, her body has never been found. Her family maintains hope that they will one day recover her remains and give her the proper burial she deserves. For those with information about Cecilia's disappearance or the location of her remains, the San Antonio Police Department continues to accept tips at 210-207-7660. A GoFundMe campaign remains active to increase the reward for information leading to the recovery of her body. In the words of her sister, Margie Lopez, "We just want to bring her home." Until that day comes, Cecilia's case serves as a stark reminder of the devastating impact of domestic violence and the enduring pain of families left without closure. On July 1, 1995, in the small resort town of Girdwood, Alaska, 24-year-old Erin Marie Gilbert attended the annual forest fair on what should have been a casual first date. Instead, it became her last known location, marking the beginning of one of Alaska's most perplexing missing persons cases. Standing nearly 6 feet tall, Erin had moved to Anchorage the previous summer from San Francisco, joining her sister Stephanie and her family to build a new life in Alaska. An aspiring writer with dreams of attending cosmetology school, she supported herself working as a nanny while pursuing her ambitions. Those who knew her described a confident, kind young woman who enjoyed basketball, reading, and running. Just days before her disappearance, Erin visited Chilkoot Charlie's, a popular Anchorage nightclub known locally as Coots. There, she met David Combs, and the two made plans to attend the Girdwood Forest Fair together, an annual festival featuring local artists, crafts, and entertainment, located 36 miles south of Anchorage. On the afternoon of July 1st, around 4 p.m., Combs arrived to pick up Erin. In what would later seem an ominous detail, Stephanie's 4-year-old child suggested Erin take a cell phone. She declined. It was the last time her family would see her. According to Combs's account, the pair spent approximately 2 hours at the festival before deciding to leave around 6 p.m. When they returned to his vehicle, they discovered the battery was dead. He had left the lights on. What happened next would become the center of a decades-long mystery. Combs claims he told Erin he would walk to a nearby friend's house for help. He says that when he returned several hours later, after wandering around unsuccessfully, Erin was gone. The car, however, now started. Despite allegedly searching until 1 a.m., he could not locate her. It wasn't until 7 a.m. the next morning that Combs contacted Stephanie, asking if Erin had made it home. His reportedly nonchalant demeanor would later raise questions among investigators and family members alike. The response to Erin's disappearance was immediate. Her sister Stephanie and family rushed to Girdwood, where they had Erin's name announced from the festival stage and conducted searches throughout the fairgrounds and surrounding woods. When these efforts proved futile, they contacted law enforcement, officially reporting her as a missing person. What followed was one of the most extensive searches in the area's history. Law enforcement deployed helicopters, search dogs, and ground teams to comb through the dense Alaskan wilderness surrounding Girdwood. Despite the massive effort, not a single trace of Erin was found. No clothing, no personal belongings, nothing to indicate where she might have gone. The investigation would reveal troubling inconsistencies. The timeline provided by David Combs raised questions, particularly the extended period between when he allegedly lost contact with Erin and when he finally notified her family. His claim of searching for hours seemed at odds with the relatively small size of the festival grounds. Moreover, the issue with the car battery, the catalyst for the entire sequence of events, was never fully explained. The case took on additional complexity given the location. Girdwood, nestled in a valley surrounded by wilderness, presents unique challenges for investigators. The terrain is rugged, the wildlife dangerous, and the weather conditions can be extreme. If something had happened to Erin in these surroundings, finding evidence would be remarkably difficult. Law enforcement conducted multiple interviews with David Combs, who maintained his version of events. While he was never officially named a suspect, Erin's family harbored deep suspicions about his account. The nonchalant phone call the next morning, the unexplained hours of alleged searching, and the convenient resolution of the car troubles all seemed to paint a picture that didn't quite align. In the decades since Erin's disappearance, her case has haunted both investigators and the Alaskan community. Her sister Stephanie has never stopped searching for answers, regularly revisiting the case and working to keep Erin's story alive in the public consciousness. In 2017, 22 years after Erin vanished, the family launched renewed efforts to investigate the cold case, hoping that advancing technology or new witnesses might finally break the silence. The disappearance of Erin Gilbert represents a particularly frustrating type of missing persons case, one where the last known moments are well documented, yet the truth remains elusive. She was last seen at a public event, surrounded by hundreds of festival goers, yet somehow slipped away without a witness. The Girdwood Forest Fair continues to this day, but for many locals, it carries the shadow of that July evening in 1995. In 2024, 29 years after Erin vanished, her case remains one of Alaska's most perplexing mysteries. No body has ever been found. No physical evidence has ever surfaced. The Alaska State Troopers maintain an open file on her disappearance, but leads have been scarce. Her family believes she met with foul play and is deceased, though without evidence, even this cannot be confirmed with certainty. Erin Marie Gilbert would be 53 years old today. The case remains unsolved. In the final days of 2018, the city of Austin, Texas, would be confronted with a disturbing murder that remains unsolved to this day. The victim was 23-year-old Nicole Diane Coleman, a bright young woman whose promising future was violently cut short just hours before the new year. Nicole was more than just another statistic. A recent college graduate with a perfect 4.0 GPA, she had dreams of becoming a therapist to help others struggling with mental health challenges, something she understood firsthand. Her acceptance letters to both Sam Houston State University and the University of Houston spoke to her academic promise, even as she battled her own internal demons. The events leading to Nicole's death began in December 2018, when she made the decision to seek help by checking herself into an Austin mental health facility. After receiving treatment, she transitioned to a local group home for women. It was a step toward stability, but one that would tragically prove short-lived. On December 28, 2018, surveillance cameras at a gas station on Ed Bluestein Boulevard captured Nicole's final known movements. At 5:26 p.m., she can be seen walking through the parking lot. 41 minutes later, at 6:07 p.m., the cameras record her one last time. These grainy images would become crucial pieces of evidence in the investigation that followed. 3 days later, on New Year's Eve, cyclists made a grim discovery in a wooded area just a 10-minute walk from that same gas station. Nicole's body lay there, stripped of clothing, bearing what investigators would describe as traumatic injuries throughout her body. The medical examiner's findings painted a picture of a violent death, though police have never publicly revealed whether sexual assault was involved. Initially, investigators explored a possible connection to an aggravated sexual assault that had occurred just days earlier, barely a mile from where Nicole was found. However, within a month, Detective Patrick O'Farrell would officially dismiss any link between the two crimes. The investigation has been hampered by significant challenges. Nicole had only recently arrived in the area, making it difficult for police to establish her local connections. Her father, Mike Coleman, had previously documented his daughter's concerning pattern of associating with numerous individuals, evidenced by a collection of 30-40 paper towel sheets, each bearing a different name and phone number of people she would meet. The location where Nicole's body was discovered added another layer of complexity to the case. The wooded area off Ed Bluestein Boulevard, while close to the gas station where she was last seen, provided few forensic clues for investigators to work with. Police have confirmed they recovered items of evidence from the scene, but have kept the specifics confidential to protect the integrity of their ongoing investigation. What makes this case particularly challenging is the short window of time between Nicole's last sighting and her death. The surveillance footage shows a young woman walking alone, giving no indication of distress or that she was being followed. This has led investigators to question whether Nicole's killer was someone she knew, or if she fell victim to a random act of violence. The timing of the murder, during the holiday season when many businesses were closed and potential witnesses were away, may have provided the killer with an opportunity to avoid detection. The Austin Police Department has been particularly interested in any vehicles that might have been seen in the area of the gas station during those crucial hours of December 28th. Nicole's story is made more poignant by the progress she had made in her life before her death. Despite struggling with mental illness since her preteen years, she had managed to excel academically and was working toward a career dedicated to helping others. Her father's emotional Facebook post after her death revealed a young woman who found joy in simple pleasures: naps, the ocean, trees, long walks, and fireflies. She was a poet and deeply spiritual person who encouraged others in their faith. Today, more than 5 years after Nicole Coleman's murder, Austin police continue to seek answers. They're particularly interested in speaking with anyone who might have encountered Nicole during her brief time in Austin, or who noticed any suspicious activity near the gas station where she was last seen alive. The case remains active, with investigators still pursuing leads and analyzing evidence. As of 2024, Nicole Coleman's murder remains unsolved. Her case serves as a stark reminder that behind every unsolved homicide statistic is a human story. A life cut short, a family left searching for answers, and a community left to wonder about a killer who may still walk among them.